going? So today we're going to be covering lab number 3, which is your integumentary system. And you just have one model in this lab, the skin model you see right here. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to go through your list of structures you need to know. Alright, so first of all, you should know the layers of the skin. So you have your epidermis, which is from here to here. All these layers are part of the epidermis, and we'll cover their names here in a second. You have your dermis, which is all of this, and then you have your subcutaneous, which contains all of your fat adipose tissue, which you can see right down here. Alright, so starting on the epidermis, we need to know the name of each of these layers. So I'm going to go through them once, and then I'll show you a little bit of an easier way to learn them. So these first two layers you see right here, this is what we call the stratum corneum. This is going to be your outermost layer. This is where you have all those dead cells like slewing off of your skin. Then on right here, these two are the stratum lucidum. So you only have a stratum lucidum on two parts of your body, the soles of your feet and the palms of your hands. So this is more tougher skin, essentially. This one right here is your stratum granulosum. Then you have your stratum spinosum and your stratum basale right here. So a little easy acronym that I like to use is come, let's get sunburned. So it just has like the first letter of each of the layers, and that just helps you like organize it and remember the layers basically. So corneum, lucidum, granulosum, spinosum, and basale. So those are all the layers of the epidermis. Alright, moving on to the dermis, which is from about here to here. That is what contains basically all these organs within the skin. So if you turn the model to the side right here, you can see a couple layers of the dermis. So you have your papillary layer, which is this upper layer right here, the kind of smaller one. This is what contains the dermal papillae, which are all of these little things sticking up. And this is essentially what gives you like your fingerprints and stuff. They're like ridges in the skin, kind of. Then you have your reticular layer, which is from here to here, and this is what actually contains all these organs within here. So you have your papillary and your reticular layer. Before I go through all these organs, we're going to cover the hypodermis really fast, which is this last layer right down here. And you can see all these little yellow structures right here. This is what your adipose or fat tissue is within the hypodermis. Alright, a few things we need to know within the skin model right here. So you have your hair shaft, which is this right here. That's essentially what we see of hair on our body. Your hair root's going to be below the skin. So if you look right over here, this is your hair root, this brown below the skin right here. Then that ends in what we call the hair follicle, which is right down here. You also have your Erector Pili muscle, which is this little muscle right here. You can also see one right here. This essentially, when this contracts, that's what gives you goosebumps, because that like raises the hair above the skin and causes that little bump. Your sebaceous or oil glands are going to be these little purple bulbs right here. And then your sweat or sudoriferous glands are going to be these little white ones right here. And you can also see one right over here. Then you have a few sensory receptors. So you have these red ones right here. This is what we call the tactile or Meissner's corpuscles. You can learn either name. Just choose one and decide on that. Some people call them like, they look like little cherries kind of. You also have your lamellar or Pacinian corpuscles, which are these green ones right down here. You can also see one cut off from right here or right over here. So these are your lamellar or Pacinian corpuscles. And then lastly, we have your bulbous or Ruffini corpuscles, which are these little, some people say they look like hot dogs, but these little pink structures right here are your bulbous or Ruffini corpuscles. And before we end, we have your free nerve endings, which you can see right here. These little white, yellow things that stick up. So these are your free nerve endings. And that covers the integument model. Thanks, guys. Alright, so what we have right here is your simple squamous epithelium. And you can see one single layer of flat cells right here lining it. So you can find, for this, all you need to label is the nucleus, which is essentially this little dark spot right here. That's going to be your nucleus, which is essentially this little dark spot right here. That's going to be your nucleus here. And this tissue type you can find like in capillaries, in the alveoli of the lungs. It's just basically a thin layer that helps pass stuff through. Alright, next we have your simple columnar epithelium, which is on this page right here. So you can see it's a single layer of these column-shaped cells. So what you need to label on here is your nucleus, which is this dark spot right here. your cytoplasm, which is essentially all the other space within the cell. Remember, that's the fluid of the cell, essentially. You also need your plasma membrane. Remember, that's the outer covering of the cell. You can just see on the outer edge. And you need your microvilli, which would essentially just be lining the border of the cells. So for this tissue type, you can find it in like the digestive tract and stuff like that. And the microvilli also increases the absorption area. So the microvilli increase the absorption area, so like in the intestine and stuff when you're absorbing food and nutrients. You can also see your goblet cells, which you can see this structure right here, and this is what is secreting like mucus and stuff. So remember, you need like mucus to like help the food pass through the digestive tract, so that's what those are doing here. All right, going on, we have your adipose tissue. This is a type of connective tissue right here. So basically for this, the nucleus is going to be this little dark spot right here. You also have your plasma membrane, which is the outer covering, and your fat storage area is essentially everything inside. So in the case of adipose tissue, this fat storage area like pushes everything to the side. So that's why you see your nucleus out on the outer edge, because it's basically just been pushed out. So this will be like your fat tissue. So anywhere you have fat, whether it's supposed to be there or not, so you'll find this type of tissue. All right, lastly, we have our hyaline cartilage. The cartilage is also a type of connective tissue. So this one could be a little more confusing. You have your lacuna, which is essentially the little socket that the cell sits in. So if you look at this cell, maybe right here, you see this little space on the outside of the cell. So that's actually the lacuna, which is like this little indentation within the tissue that you can find the cells in. You have your nucleus, which is this little black dot in here. Your plasma membrane, so it's not the outer edge, that's the lacuna. So it's just like the second outer edge, which would be this cell within the lacuna. Cytoplasm is just essentially everything around it. And in the case of this specific type of, well, all connective tissue has a matrix, which is like the everything outside the cells essentially. So here, all of this out here would be your matrix of your hyaline cartilage. And that covers the tissue. Thanks, guys.